Okay. Okay, can you guys hear me? All right. For who's ever here, thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming to my live stream. This is gonna be my first one on YouTube. I already did a previous one on Twitch. So anyway, today we will be reacting to true horror stories here. And I'm sorry if I'm speaking a bit low. It is my mic. I apologize. So let's get started with the video.
I was 14 when it happened, but I looked older, maybe 17 or 18. People always said I had one of those faces that made me seem more mature than I actually was. My family was just 3 minutes away from my grandma's house, and I had the whole place to myself for the evening. It was just after 8 p.m., dark but not too late, and I was on FaceTime with my best friend, Jenna. We were gossiping about school and laughing about the
I
latest
just grabbed this
drama
video out of
when the
nowhere. I have
doorbell rang.
no idea how long
At first,
this video was
I didn't
made.
think much of it. My parents had this habit of either knocking or just using their keys. They never used the doorbell, which made it a little odd, but not alarming. I put Jenna on hold and went to check. When I reached the door, there was no one there. My first thought was that whoever it was might be standing outside the fence. We had a garden with a small white picket fence and a gate that led to the lawn. There was a doorbell at the fence, too. I opened the door and stepped out onto the porch, the cool night air brushing against my skin. That's when I saw him. He stood behind the gate, a man, maybe in his 30s, wearing a ripped black shirt, faded jean shorts, and no shoes. His feet were dirty, and he had this strange, vacant look on his face. For a second, I thought he might be homeless or drunk.
And that is probably
I called
the
out,
case.
unsure of what to do. He didn't answer.
There's no
right
other
away.
option for that. That is the
Instead,
case.
he tilted his head up, like he was noticing the trees in our garden for the first time. Then he said, "Just checking out the trees." His voice was thin, almost like it didn't belong to him, and something about the way he said it made me uneasy. I froze for a moment. What do you even say to something like that? I didn't feel scared yet, just confused. "Okay," I said cautiously, "but you can't just stand there." That's when he reached for the gate latch. "Hey," I shouted. "You
Okay,
can't
that
do
is
sir."
alarming. That
He
that
stopped
is a bit
mid-motion,
alarming.
startled. His hand dropped.
If that was me, I would
and for a
immediately gone
second,
out there with a bat.
I thought he was going to start yelling or
It's
something.
in my nature.
Instead, he just stared at me blankly before turning and walking away into the night. I locked the door and went back inside, my heart racing now. I didn't even tell Jenna what had just happened. By the time my parents came home an hour later, I convinced myself it was nothing. Probably just some weirdo passing through, but that wasn't the end of it. The next day, my parents decided to go shopping after dinner. They asked if I wanted to come, but I wasn't feeling it. Instead, I invited Jenna over, and we spent the evening watching TV and eating snacks in the living room. It was almost 11 p.m. when I heard it, footsteps, slow and deliberate, crunching on the gravel outside. I muted the TV and motioned for Jenna to be quiet. We both stared at the window, the curtains half drawn, as the footsteps circled the house. I leaned in just enough to peek through the gap. There he was, the same man from the night before. He moved in this strange, shuffling way. Like
Just
he
call the
wasn't entirely
cops.
sure
If
of
that
his
happens
steps.
twice in a row, just call the
His
cops.
head turned from side to side, as if he were searching for something or someone. Then he stopped right in front of the window, and for the first time he seemed to notice me. Our eyes met for a split second before I yanked the curtains shut. "What is it?" Jenna said. "It's him," I said. "The guy from last night." The next thing we heard was a soft knock at the front door. "Who is it?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. No answer at first. Then, "My phone's dead," the man said from the other side of the door. "Can I use your phone?" "Sorry," I said quickly, "I can't help you." The knocking turned into pounding. Jenna grabbed my arm. "We need to call someone," she mutters. "Yeah," I said.
See, I should go pause. What did I say? You don't wait to call somebody, even that happens the first time. You keep that in mind, and if they come back again, you just call them straight up. But if I'm being completely honest, I would be an idiot in this situation too.
Already pulling out my phone. But before I could dial, we heard the sound of glass shattering. "Oh my God," Jenna gasped. "He's inside." We bolted upstairs and locked ourselves in my bedroom. My hands were shaking as I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house, I said, trying not to cry. He broke in. Please send someone. The operator assured me that officers were on their way, but every second felt like an eternity. Downstairs, we could hear the man moving around. Heavy footsteps, the sound of furniture scraping against the floor. Then silence. A few minutes later, flashing red and blue lights lit up the street outside. I heard the officers shouting, followed by the sound of a struggle. Jenna and I stayed locked in the room until one of the officers knocked on the door and told us it was safe to come out. The man didn't resist when they arrested him. He just stood there staring blankly as they cuffed him and led him to the patrol car. Over the next few days, the police told us what they'd found out. The man was a patient at a mental hospital about 10 miles away. He had escaped earlier that week, and they'd been looking for him ever since.
Okay,
He's not violent, one of the officers assured us.
Okay.
He's just confused.
They got me. That one
Confused
seems
or not,
half true.
I couldn't
This
shake
actually
the
seems
image of
kinda
him
true.
standing at my gate, whispering about the trees. For weeks after that, I couldn't sleep without double-checking every lock in the house. Before we dive into the next story, if you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon to stay updated with our upcoming scary stories. Your support means the world to us, so please share these stories with your friends and family. Thanks. I live in Los Angeles, in the suburbs. It's a nice neighborhood, mostly Iranian and Jewish families. The homes are big, the yards are neat, and there's always someone jogging or walking their dog. Still, it's not unusual to hear the ghetto bird late at night. But this time the helicopter wasn't just passing by. It was right over my house, the spotlight slicing through the dark like it was searching for something, or someone. Inside, my wife and toddler son were fast asleep in our room. The door was locked, and I thought about waking her, but what would I even say? I didn't want to alarm her unless I had to. Instead, I went to the safe and grabbed my Remington pump-action shotgun. I loaded it with a double-aught
a man
buck
with
and a
logic.
slug. Just in case, I locked the bedroom door behind me and went to the living room. The first thing I did was turn off all the lights inside the house and switch on every exterior light. The backyard, the driveway, the porch, everything was lit up like a stadium. Then I stood by the windows, shirtless in my pajama bottoms, holding the shotgun across my chest. The helicopter kept circling, its spotlight darting back and forth over my yard, the street, and the neighbors' homes. Minutes passed, but nothing happened. The house felt too quiet, and my own breathing sounded loud in my ears. I sat down in the chair near the sliding glass door, the shotgun resting on my lap. I told myself I'd stay awake, but exhaustion started to creep in. Just as my eyelids got heavy, I saw it. A figure running past the sliding door, heading toward the side yard. I jumped up, heart pounding, and ran to the kitchen. That's when I realized the side door to the garage was open. I froze for a second, unsure what to do. Then I grabbed the shotgun tighter and stepped into the garage. The door leading to the side yard was partially open, the knob turning slowly. Someone was on the other side trying to get in. The door sticks.
That is alarming. Just imagine yourself in that
swollen
situation,
from rain,
though.
and you have to push hard to open it. Whoever was outside was struggling with it, and I knew I only had a few seconds. I racked the shotgun, pointing it at the door's small glass window, and shouted, "Stop!" The person froze. I reached for the tactical flashlight mounted on the barrel, but of course, the batteries were dead. My mouth went dry. I had one thought. If he came through that door, I'd have no choice but to shoot. And if I didn't, he could overpower me. The unlocked door behind me led straight into the house. Straight to my family. The doorknob stopped turning. I could hear him breathing on the other side, short and panicked. He didn't move, and neither did I. The spotlight from the helicopter flashed across the yard, briefly illuminating the window. For a split second I saw his face, young, wide-eyed, terrified. But then he turned, looking behind him. That's when I heard it. The shouts of the police. They were coming down the side yard, flashlights sweeping the area.
Okay.
A loud clatter as they unlocked the gate.
These stories I'm actually reacting to are a bit
chaos.
believable.
Commands shouted over each other.
But honestly, I
hands
think that
grabbing
takes
the
away
guy
a little bit from
and forcing him
the
to the ground.
charm, though.
I lowered the shotgun, my hands
I don't know
shaking.
why. It
A
takes
female
a bit away
officer's
from the
flashlight
charm of
glared
it.
through the garage door window. "Sir, get inside." I didn't argue. I locked the door to the garage, walked back into the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were trembling so badly, I spilled half of it. My ears were ringing, and my chest felt tight. An hour later, the helicopter was gone, the cops had left, and the neighborhood was quiet again. I stepped outside to lock the gate. A few neighbors were standing around, talking in Hebrew and Farsi, trying to make sense of what had happened. I nodded at them but didn't say a word. When I went back inside, my wife stirred. "Why aren't you asleep?" she mumbled. "Just insomnia," I said. I couldn't tell her, not now. It would scare her too much. The next day, I called the police to find out what had happened. The watch commander told me the guy was a 16-year-old kid from the neighborhood. He had wealthy parents and no criminal record, but he'd been caught breaking into a friend's house and ran when the cops showed up.
No,
he ditched his
that's
car a
actually
block
kind of
away
sad, though.
and ended up hiding in my yard. I didn't tell the cops about the shotgun or how close I'd come to pulling the trigger. The less they knew, the better. A few weeks later, something strange happened.
That's pretty much how I live my life.
Late at night, I was in the kitchen grabbing a drink when I noticed the motion light in the backyard flicker on. I froze, staring out the window. The yard was empty, or so I thought. Then I saw it, a shadow moving near the fence. I grabbed the shotgun again, my heart racing. Was it the same kid? Someone else? I turned on the exterior lights, flooding the yard. The shadow disappeared, but I didn't relax. I checked all the doors and windows twice before going back to bed.
Dude, I'd be shaken up if that was too. If somebody was trying to break into my house.
Months went by, and life returned to normal, until it didn't. One evening, I was in the garage working on a project when I heard a noise outside. It sounded like someone trying to open the gate. I turned off the light and stood still, listening. The noise stopped, but my gut told me something was wrong. This time, I didn't grab the shotgun. I wanted to see who it was first.
Do not keep the shotgun on you.
I peeked through the small window in the garage door and saw two figures standing near the gate. One of them was trying to pick the lock. I quietly backed away and called 911. The dispatcher told me to stay on the line and keep the doors locked. As I waited for the cops, I heard the gate creak open. My chest tightened. I held my breath, listening to their footsteps coming closer. Then, out of nowhere, the motion light in the yard turned on. The two figures froze, and I saw their faces for the first time. Teenagers, maybe 17 or 18. They looked at each other, panicked, and bolted. The cops arrived minutes later, but the kids were
Then what
long
scared
gone.
them?
That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the first kid who had almost made it into my garage. What if he'd come back? What if he'd brought friends this time? I knew I couldn't live like this, constantly on edge. The next morning, I installed security cameras around the house, put new locks on every door, and added a second lock to the garage door. I even bought a new flashlight for the shotgun and tested the batteries every week.
Wow.
But even with all that,
this dude upped his
I
security
still
by a
couldn't
lot
shake the
after
feeling
that.
something was off.
I have to say, I'm actually impressed. Okay, last story coming up.
It was during
This
one of
one
our
better be good.
internship months that I stayed in a dorm with a few of my classmates. It wasn't fancy, just a small, cramped building that felt like it had been there for decades. The paint on the walls was peeling, and the wooden floors creaked under the lightest step. Some of the students who stayed here before us had their share of weird experiences. They'd talk about shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, or whispers in the dark.
Okay, that's
But
okay.
I
This
figured they were
last one
just
is
trying to
definitely
spook
made up.
us. The first night was uneventful at first. My roommate, Mia, decided to head out with one of our professors for a last-minute errand. She told me she'd probably stay out late and not to wait up for her. I didn't mind. I was exhausted from the long day and more than ready to collapse into bed. Before lying down, I made sure to lock the door. I even double-checked it, twisting the knob to ensure it wouldn't budge. I left the lights on, just in case. Not because I believed in ghosts or anything, but because the dorm had a strange, oppressive feeling at night, like the walls were watching you. It must have been around 2 a.m. when I woke up. Not fully awake, though, more like that groggy state where your mind is half dreaming, half aware.
Yeah, that is
My
me
body
every
felt
day.
heavy, and my eyes could barely stay
24/7.
open. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, squinting at the screen to see the time. Just as I was about to roll over and pull the blanket up, I noticed something. At first, I thought it was a shadow cast by the light. But as my vision adjusted, I realized it was darker than any shadow I'd ever seen. A shape, human-shaped. It was standing near the door, motionless. I couldn't see its face, but it was undeniably there, a figure in the room with me. My heart skipped a beat. I stared at it, my mind trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Maybe Mia had come back early, but I didn't hear the door open, and besides, Mia was taller than this thing. And then it moved. The shadow glided or walked, I wasn't sure which, toward my bed. There was something unnatural about the way it moved, smooth and silent, like it was floating just above the ground. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, to move, but I couldn't. My body was frozen, paralyzed with a terror I'd never felt before.
It's sleep
The
paralysis.
figure stopped
though.
at the foot of my bed, looming over me.
A lot of people
My
associate with
half-asleep
that
brain
with sleep
struggled to
paralysis.
process what was happening. Its presence felt heavy, suffocating. I couldn't see its eyes, but I felt it watching me. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, everything went black. When I woke up again, the sun was streaming through the window.
Like I said, sleep
For a
paralysis.
moment,
Either
I
that or
thought
a
it
dream.
had all been a dream. I sat up, rubbing my eyes.
I just
and
realized
that's
how
when I
much of a
noticed the door.
buzzkill I am.
It was unlocked. I was certain I had locked it before going to bed. I remembered twisting the knob and even tugging on it to make sure it was secure. But now it was wide open, just slightly ajar. My stomach churned as I got out of bed and checked the room. Nothing was missing. My belongings were exactly where I had left them. But the door didn't make sense. Trying to shake off the unease, I got dressed and headed to the dining area where some of my classmates were gathered. I decided not to mention it at first. Maybe I'd forgotten to lock it. Maybe I'd imagined the shadowy figure. Sleep paralysis, I thought. That's what it had to be. But when Mia returned later that morning, I couldn't help but ask her, "Hey, did you come back to the room last night?" I tried to sound casual, but my voice wavered just slightly. She frowned. "No, I told you I'd be out late. I didn't even step foot in the dorm after I left." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Are
I
you
can only
sure?
imagine
Like
being in
maybe
his
you
shoes,
forgot
because if I
something and
asked that,
came
I
back
would
to
be
grab it?"
tripping out.
She shook her head firmly. "Nope, why?" I hesitated, then told her what happened. The shadow, the unlocked door, the suffocating feeling. By the time I finished, I had goosebumps all over. Mia stared at me, her face pale. "That's creepy," she said. Our classmates, overhearing the conversation, chimed in with their own stories. One girl talked about hearing someone whisper her name at night, only to find her room empty. Another guy swore he saw a shadow dart across the hallway, even though no one else was awake. We all tried to laugh it off, chalking it up to tired minds and overactive imaginations. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that what I saw or felt was real. That night, I made Mia promise not to leave me alone again. We locked the door together, triple-checked it, and even pushed a chair against it for good measure. Still,
Whoa.
I barely slept. Every creak of the old building made me flinch. Every shadow cast by the flickering light made my skin crawl. The rest of our stay passed uneventfully, but the memory of that night stayed with me. Even now, I can't explain what happened. Was it just a dream, a trick of the light, or something else entirely? What do you think?
A dream. It's a complete dream. I have to say that is an absolute dream. Is that it? Wow, wow, didn't even have an outro. Okay, so I suppose that was it. Okay, so for those who are watching, thank you very much. It really means a lot to me. This was a reaction that I wanted to do in real time because I didn't feel like editing earlier. So I just want to get this out there as soon as possible. And I will be streaming again, this time on Twitch. I might stream again on YouTube. But this one might be exclusive to Twitch. I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you again for all you guys who are watching. It means so much for me. It means so much to me. So again, thank you. And I hope you guys have an amazing Thanksgiving. See you later. And thank you again.